The sky over Oranyx carried a metallic yellow that looked exhausted before sunrise. It was never blue, never clear, and never gentle. Dust hung in wide layers, forming a thin shimmer that caught every stray beam of light. From orbit, the world appeared wounded. Glowing scars marked the long lines of open mines where Veer metal veins sliced through the crust and reflected a dull, sickly shine into space. The transport Aurora Reach pierced that sky on a pillar of controlled heat. The ship shook as dust scraped across reinforced plating. A dry vibration ran through the hull in steady pulses. Inside the command cabin, the crew strapped into their couches, eyes shifting between descent telemetry and a single object in the center chamber. A sealed white cylinder floated in an armored cradle. Smooth alloy, no ornament, only rings of biometric ports and a steady inner hum. Its internal pressure stayed flat. Temperature held stable. Field integrity stayed locked in the green zone. It held the LUMINEX archive. Dr. Halden Ree watched the display from his seat, fingers unmoving on the console. He had spent 10 years refining the gene repair protocols inside that cylinder, 10 years waiting for a world like Oranyx. A world suffocating under its own dust. The pilot glanced at him. Descent corridor stable. Wind shear low. Nothing unexpected. Ree nodded. His mind was not on the wind. It was on the numbers he carried the way others carried memories. Lung scarring among mining families. High oxygen demand markers. Collapse patterns in children exposed to airborne metallic dust. Every statistic pressed against him like a weight. LUMINEX was built to repair damage, not rewrite nature. It could not create stronger lungs or superior fighters. It could only restore what had been lost: thin air resilience, clean oxygen transfer, stable cellular healing. But on Oranyx, repair was enough. Repair could mean life. The ship broke through the lower haze. Thanriel's landing field stretched ahead. A long slab of treated alloy bordered by processing towers and dust filters that never quite kept up with demand. A crowd waited behind a security fence. Miners with dented breathing seals stood beside vendors, guards off shift, and children clutching patched masks. Their eyes followed the vessel the way people watched the first storm after months of heat. The ship landed in a shudder of hydraulics. Inside the cargo bay, the mag-lev cradle unlocked. The archive hovered slightly as gravity shifted. 2 technicians checked seals, then guided the cradle toward the ramp. Heat and fine dust swept inside. Reed tasted metal through his respirator. A distant tang of scorched earth lingered beneath it, the memory of fires that had burned long before anyone remembered who set them. A woman near the fence lifted her coughing son. His mask was too large. Air escaped at the sides. "Is that it?" he asked. "It is," she said. "They say it can help us breathe." Behind her, an older man shook his head slowly. "They said many things before." Still, he stayed. The convoy formed quickly, 4 armored transports positioned around the cradle. Engines rumbled through the dry air. Drones rose above them, adjusting altitude to compensate for shifting dust density. The road from the landing field cut through the mining belt. To the right, stepped pits dropped into shadow, each level marked by rail tracks and heavy lifts. To the left, processing towers exhaled thin white plumes into the yellow sky. Captain Rias Dorn studied the sensor feed. This cargo was more than medicine. It was a promise, and promises broke fast on a world like this. "Visibility?" he asked. "Dense dust ahead," the driver answered, "but within limits." In the second vehicle, Kenna tapped her rifle sling against her armor. "Feels wrong," she muttered. Her squad leader shrugged. Scans were clean. Locals want this delivered. But clean scans did not stop the device buried in the ridge. The ion EMP disruptor activated without sound. A faint ripple crossed the convoy's status panels. Screens flickered. Engines stuttered. Then everything died at once. Hydraulic locks froze. Drones dropped with dull thuds. Ventilation fans halted. Dust settled in a slow curtain of silence. 42 seconds. That was the radius-tuned cycle of a well-calibrated disruptor. This one was perfect. Figures emerged from broken machinery and rock shadows. Reinforced masks covered their faces. Their armor mixed mining exosuit plates with scavenged security parts. Black split veil symbols marked their chests. The shatter veil moved with precision learned under hard lives. Grappling charges hit the central transport with metallic snaps. Magnetic anchors burned into armor. Cutting blasts tore into wheel locks. Guards tried to force open hatches but fought dead engines and offline servos. The first guard who broke free fell to a controlled burst of stun rounds. Dust billowed as he hit the ground. Inside, a technician stared at the cradle's readout. Containment still stable. Outside, a Shatter Veil operative slapped a forged command mod onto the cradle's base. The archive responded to the false code, unlocking for transfer. Power flickered back through the convoy one system at a time. Screens blinked on, engines coughed, but the skimmer had already ignited its engines. The archive slid aboard, framed by dust and heat. A microdrone rebooted long enough to climb 10 meters and capture one trembling image, the skimmer vanishing into a narrow fracture in the ground. A subsurface shaft, one of the many forgotten veins beneath Oranyx. Then the feed died. On Horizon Spine, the orbital station above the system, that single image filled a conference room. Officers and administrators argued in tight, clipped voices. "We cannot let the Alliance see this," one counselor said. "If it looks like we lost control." "It is more than control," another replied. "If someone weaponized that device." Envoy Merrick Solon raised a hand. Silence rippled outward. "Argue later," he said. "We need a path forward." Names and symbols scrolled in the air: gangs, smugglers, resistance cells. The Shatter Veil emblem pulsed among them. "They have hit minor shipments," an intelligence officer said. "Never anything this large." "That means help from inside," a security chief growled. Solon studied the dark image of the shaft. "A normal retrieval team will not reach them. They will be watched from the moment they land." One counselor frowned. "So who do you propose?" Solon opened a file. The holo shifted to a service record closed under Directive Emberline. Cole Aristran. His commendations lined one side. His failures formed a shorter, sharper list. His departure from military service came in a single redacted paragraph. Far from Horizon Spine, Cole stood knee-deep in water on a quiet colony shore, guiding a small boat toward a weathered dock. The tide lapped gently at the supports. Salt crossed the air, light and clean. He preferred simple work now. Outboard engines, hull repairs, tools that stayed where they were left. Shadows of his past rose only at night. A shuttle thundered softly overhead and settled near the dock. Stones rattled in its wash. The hatch opened, and Solon stepped out, coat too formal for this coastline. "It has been a long time," he said. "Not long enough," Cole answered, drying his hands on a rag. Solon told him about the convoy, the ambush, the lost archive. Cole listened with arms folded, weight resting against a wooden post smoothed by years of wind. "You have teams," Cole said, "people with tags who follow orders." "They are compromised," Solon replied. "Any official tag becomes a signal flare." "So you want someone unaligned?" "I want someone who knows collapsing ground. Someone who understands vertical terrain and broken structures." Cole looked out at the waves. "That person is gone." "You left the uniform," Solon said, "not the instincts." Later, they sat at a table outside the workshop. The sun dropped toward the horizon, turning the water gold. Solon placed a data drive between them. "There is something more," he said. "You should know before you refuse." Cole did not touch it. "You were security during early LUMINEX evaluations," Solon said. "Volunteer cohorts, baseline mapping." Cole's breath caught. "One volunteer used a coded identifier." Solon continued. "That code appears in this file." Cole picked up the drive. His old wrist console accepted it with a soft click. Lines of genetic mapping unfolded. Flags, notes, diagnostics from a decade earlier. Then a name. Aria Aristren. His sister's sequence built a stabilization model used by the algorithms. Her physical samples were destroyed, but her code remained inside the archive, woven into every repair package produced since, including the one now stolen. If someone copied it, altered it, or bent it toward enhancement, her code would echo across strangers. soldiers, or creations she never consented to. Cole closed his eyes. He remembered the crack of distant ordnance. A coded order. A casualty list. Her name on it. He had spent 2 years learning to breathe without that memory. But now her shadow stretched across a world he had never seen. He shut down the console. Night deepened around him. The shuttle lights glowed steady. Cole walked toward them. Solon stepped from the ramp. "Will you come?" "This isn't for your council," Cole said. "Not for the Alliance. Not for politics." "Then what is it for?" "For her," Cole said. "And for the people breathing a sky they never chose." Solon nodded. "Then let's go." Cole boarded the shuttle with only his console and a jacket. As they lifted into the night, the coastline fell away. Ahead, beyond the curve of world and station, lay Oranyx, a wounded planet waiting under a stolen promise. The shuttle broke through the thin sky of Oranyx on a trembling column of flame. From Cole Aristran's narrow viewport, the world below looked like a wounded machine someone had tried to keep running long after its warranty had expired. Massive open pits scarred the surface in jagged spirals. Processing towers rose like rusted needles. A haze of metallic dust floated across the atmosphere, turning the light into a dull brass. A cabin chime sounded. "Final descent to Thanriel. Atmospheric mix outside is hazardous. Do not expose skin or lungs." Cole tightened his harness even though he had brought almost nothing with him. He leaned closer to the window as the city came into view. Buildings were pressed too close together. Built fast and cheap, reinforced only where they had to be. The entire settlement looked like it had grown under exhaustion rather than ambition. When the shuttle landed, heat shimmered up from the ground. The hatch opened with a hiss, and a wave of yellow dust surged inside before the airlock field pushed it away. Cole stepped through it and into the filtered perimeter, where the dust curled along an invisible barrier. Workers moved across the landing pad wearing masks that ranged from fresh-sealed models to patched hoods held together with tape. Every cough echoed faintly through the respirator filters. An administrator approached with a fogged faceplate and weary posture. "Cole Aristran?" "Yes. I'm Administrator Rill. I was told to escort you and not ask questions I won't like the answers to." "That makes 2 of us," Cole said. They headed toward a crawler. As they walked, Cole watched a boy dragging a small oxygen tank for an older miner whose shoulders trembled with each breath. Another worker leaned against a transport crate, mask rattling as he tried to inhale. A gust of wind pressed dust against the filtration barrier. For a moment the particles swirled hard enough to distort the field. Rill saw where Cole was looking. "It used to be thin and sharp," he said. "Now it's thin, sharp, and poisonous. Microfragments of Veer metal. Our masks stop the big pieces. The small ones stay forever." Cole said nothing. He didn't need to. The truth hung between them. They boarded the crawler. Workers watched them leave. One murmured to another. "Another man from Earth. Another promise. And another future that doesn't belong to us." The crawler carried them deeper into the city. The industrial belt roared with the noise of conveyor tracks and generators. Cole saw the slumped posture of miners. The slow steps. The way many paused mid-stride just to steady themselves. Oranyx wasn't dying. It had died long ago and learned to keep moving. When they reached a junction, Rill gestured for Cole to step out. "You'll get a liaison soon. Until then, try not to die. The paperwork is terrible." The crawler rolled away. Cole was still adjusting to the silence when the first explosion hit. A deep blast shook the metal walkway beneath his boots. A plume of dust erupted from a processing tower ahead. Alarms howled. Workers scattered. Cole ran toward the collapse without thinking. Another explosion cracked open a section of overhead framing. And that was when he saw her. A woman in an engineer's harness sprinting across a lower platform, trying to pull a heavy tool case away from a failing support. Her hooded mask gleamed with scratches. She was almost free when the top beam finally gave way. Cole hit a ladder, sliding down its rungs, boots sparking. He reached her just as the beam fell. He shoved both hands under its edge and forced upward. She rolled clear. "Let go," she shouted. "You can't hold that. Watch me." He pushed off and fell back as the beam slammed into the deck. They coughed through the dust. She lifted a hand to her cracked faceplate, pressing the damaged corner. Cole yanked an emergency filter from his belt and snapped it over the breach. The light blinked amber. "Better," he said. She looked at him, her gray double-ringed irises reflecting the haze. "You're from Earth, and you move like someone who's survived too many blasts." Cole Aristran. Recognition flashed across her eyes. "So you're the one they sent to chase the stolen cure." "That's the job." She straightened, adjusting her harness. Saray Valen, Energy Systems Engineer. A third blast sounded somewhere deeper in the industrial maze. "Shatter Veil," she said. "They trigger collapses, so we chase debris while they move underground." "Underground where?" She pointed toward a half-open access shaft. The grate was scorched and scraped. "They use the old city beneath us. Tunnels older than half the maps we trust." Cole studied her eyes. "You've tracked them." "I've tracked missing power. They're not subtle with the energy they steal." "Then you know more than I do." She stared at him for a heartbeat. "Why did you run into a collapsing frame for a stranger?" "I was close, and I still moved toward danger out of habit." Her gaze softened slightly. Then she nodded. "Come with me. I'll show you where the power goes missing." The workshop was cramped, crowded with coils of conduit and tools. The schematic on the wall flickered to life when Saray tapped the controls. Blue lines mapped the official grid. Red overlays bled across forgotten tunnels and abandoned substations. "This is the real grid," she said, "the one no one wants to update. Every week we lose energy. More than inefficiency can explain." Cole followed the red paths. Most converged toward a zone on the outskirts. "Zir Nath," he read. "The oldest power hub on Oranyx," she said, "shut down decades ago, but the bones under it still breathe." She hesitated. "My husband vanished 3 days ago. Joran. He was repairing a relay when they struck. No bodies, no claims, just masks left on the floor." Cole didn't look away. 3 days isn't long, not for prisoners they find useful. "That is not comfort," she said. "But it gives us a direction." She zoomed the map. A surge spike had been recorded hours after Joran disappeared. "Someone powered up something old," she said, "or something new built in the dark." Cole scanned the paths again. "You're right, they're routing energy into the under ruins." She shut off the schematic. "If you want to follow them, you need someone who knows which tunnels still hold and which collapse under a strong breath. And you need someone who knows how to fight in tight places. Then we're stuck with each other." They traced a route to one of the old warehouses near the city's fringe. Saray pulled on her hood again and fastened the emergency patch Cole had given her. With each block they passed, the sounds of the city faded. The warehouses stood like corpses, hollow, rusted, silent. One door had been forced so many times its indicator lights were meaningless. Inside, pallets were shoved aside. Dust had been wiped in long streaks. Heavy crates had been dragged recently. Saray led him to a loading bay. A hatch plate gleamed under a tarp. "Officially condemned," she said. "Unofficially, convenient." She opened it. Cold air rose from below, carrying the scent of stone and old water. "After you," Cole said. She glared. "You go first." They descended. The first level still looked maintained. The second level did not. The walls shifted from composite panels to older stone reinforced with long-forgotten engineering marks. Saray paused to trace one. "These symbols warned early builders about structural pressure," she said. "Now no one even teaches them." Cole moved ahead, spotting signs of recent activity: spent filters, cut wire, a burned-out heater, silent alarm threads stretched across corners. Thin as hair, he disarmed each one. At a choke point, the floor changed color. Cole lifted a hand. "Trap," he said. She froze. He found the sensor nub on the wall. "Pressure trigger. Maybe gas. Maybe a shaped charge. How do we get past it?" He looked up at a narrow overhead pipe access. "Climb." It took effort and precision, but they made it across. On the far side, a circular node chamber waited. Old conduits hummed faintly. A giant interface port dominated the wall. Dead for decades but still immense. "This fed half the continent once," Saray whispered. Something lay in the dust near the base of the port. She walked toward it like a sleepwalker. A tool pouch. Worn, patched, marked with a stitched spiral. Joran, she opened it with shaking hands. The tools were arranged exactly as he always kept them. Cole searched the chamber. Fresh footprints. Fresh scuff marks. A new tunnel carved beyond the interface port. Beams mismatched. Supports scavenged. They took him alive because they needed him, Cole said quietly, and they passed through here. Saray pressed the pouch against her chest. That is a terrible comfort. But it is a path. Her voice steadied. For LUMINEX, for Joran, for everyone breathing this dust. Cole checked the charge on his weapon. Zir Nath isn't a ruin anymore, he said, it's a doorway. And we're stepping through. The tunnel ahead breathed cold air. Somewhere in the dark, machines rumbled. Voices echoed. A hidden war moved in the bones of the planet. Cole and Saray stepped forward together. The deeper they went, the more the tunnels stopped feeling like parts of a forgotten city and started feeling like something alive. The walls narrowed, then widened without pattern, patched where rock had fractured, reinforced with mismatched beams and salvaged girders. The air grew colder, drier, their lamps picked out fine, glittering dust hanging in every pocket of stillness, waiting to be disturbed. Cole moved first, light low, rifle ready but not raised. Saray walked a half step behind, her gaze flicking from floor to ceiling and along the edges. She traced old structural marks almost without thinking, reading the bones of the place like text. There was a power hub near here once, she whispered. You can see where the main conduits ran. Cole saw the scars too. Thick cable channels cut into the rock. Now empty, their lines converged ahead toward a wide archway that had been partially collapsed and then reopened with crude tools. Beyond the archway, a cold, blue-tinted light glowed. They exchanged a glance and stepped through. The chamber beyond was big enough to hold a small transport. Its ceiling arched high, lost in shadow. Makeshift partitions and platforms had turned the open space into a grid of narrow aisles and curtained sections. The smell hit them first. Not dry metal and dust, but antiseptic, sour sweat, and something else beneath both. The scent of stress and failing bodies. Saray's steps slowed. This was not here when my grandfather talked about Zir Nath, she murmured. Cole said nothing. He had seen versions of this on other worlds. Under different flags. A field clinic. But this one had been assembled with stolen equipment and desperation. Behind the nearest hanging sheet, a figure lay on a low cot. Tubes ran from improvised pumps into the crook of their arm. Their skin had gone strangely pale. Almost translucent. Veins beneath looked too dark. As Cole and Saray drew closer, the person's fingers twitched. Their eyes opened a crack. Irises mottled with pale flecks. Sweat clung to their hairline. Air feels wrong, the patient whispered. Too sharp. Too bright. Saray's hand rose to her mouth behind the filter. That is a reaction to cellular stress, Cole said quietly. I have seen similar patterns in gene therapy gone wrong. Saray moved to the next cot. Then the next. Some patients shook with small, uncontrollable tremors. Some lay still, breathing fast, hearts racing under thin blankets. A few wore miners' badges. Dust still clung in the seams of one man's clothing. Near the back wall, two younger figures sat pressed together. Fingers locked, eyes open and unfocused, lips moving in broken whispers. What did you do to them? Saray whispered to the air. What did you inject into them? The answer sat at the chamber's center. A metal crate rested on a raised platform, tied into a bank of power cells and a cluster of jury-rigged interfaces. Faint markings in Earth standard type scarred its surface. LUMINEX archive, field module. Cole's throat tightened. Not the main cylinder, but a subset. A field module built for mobile trials. Someone had cracked its protocols and begun using them without safeguards. Monitors around the crate displayed broken gene maps. Segments glowed red where someone had tried to override damaged sequences. In the corner of one screen, a warning icon flashed over and over. Algorithm integrity compromised. Saray stared at the crate, horrified. They did not even understand what they stole, she said. They saw tools and stabbed them into the first willing arms. They are copying baseline correction patterns into bodies already damaged by this air. Cole said. No dose control. No tailored mapping. Suray's fists clenched. Those people volunteered for a chance to breathe better. To stop coughing blood. They volunteered to trust whoever told them this would work. Cole replied. That is not the same thing. She stared down the rows of cots. Anger burned in her eyes, tangled with something sharper and heavier. Guilt. LUMINEX was meant to save lives like theirs. Cole said softly. In the right hands, with time and care. You said yourself time is what we do not have. Suray replied. Dust is already inside us. Veer metal has been in our lungs since we learned to walk. That is what Darrow tells them. If they wait, they die slow. If they try this, maybe they die fast, but maybe. She let the word hang between them. Where is Darrow? Cole asked. If he is not here, he will be in the control chamber. She said. He likes to stand where he can see everything fall apart or come together. Depending on his mood. Then we talk to him. Cole said. And if talking is not enough, then we take LUMINEX and whoever we can carry. He replied. And we make sure no one else injects anything from this crate into anyone's arm. The patient's breathing in broken whispers followed them toward a reinforced door at the far end of the chamber. Set into an older archway. Cole glanced back once. These were not soldiers. They were the people every faction claimed to be fighting for, lying on cold cots in a stolen ruin, paying for choices they had not made. The door to the control chamber was guarded by 2 members of the Shatter Veil. Both armed, wearing respirators better than any miner could afford. Only their eyes were visible, hard and suspicious. Authorized access only, one said, raising his weapon. Turn around. Suray stepped forward before Cole could speak. You know me, she said. Suray Valen, I kept your power taps from burning out when your own people could not. The guard hesitated. We were told no more arrivals. You were also told the grid could handle your siphons. Suray said, yet here you stand in the dark again. Pride and irritation wrestled in his gaze. We have enough power, he said. We choose to conserve. You are rationing because your stolen circuits overload when someone breathes on them wrong. Suray said, let me see Darrow, if he still wants this place lit tomorrow. Silence stretched. Then the guard tapped a code. The door slid open with a groan of overworked machinery. Go, he said. Remember you walked in by choice. Inside, the chamber was a strange mix of eras. Ancient Zir-Nath consoles, surfaces worn smooth by long-dead technicians, sat beside modern displays with cracked screens. Data lines from the LUMINEX field module ran along the floor and walls, feeding into systems never designed for such information. At the center, on a raised platform surrounded by 3 hollow displays, stood Darrow Chiron. He was younger than Cole had expected. Not a burned-out revolutionary, but a man in his late 30s, lean from labor rather than privilege. His respirator hung loose around his neck. When he turned, his gaze went first to Suray, then to Cole. I expected a security team from Earth, he said, not 1 soldier and 1 engineer. That is all they were willing to risk. Cole answered. Darrow smiled faintly. So they truly are afraid. You are playing with something you do not understand, Suray said, her voice low and sharp. I understand more than you think, he replied. He gestured to a rotating gene map on a nearby display. Segments were highlighted, annotated in Earth Standard and local shorthand. You stole a library, Cole said. You are skimming sentences and calling it fluency. Fluency is a luxury for people who can breathe without machines, Darrow said. We learn what we can while we still have lungs that work. He stepped down from the platform. There was intensity in his eyes, but not madness. Do you know how many years we begged for real help? He asked. Not filters, not crates of medicine that expire faster than our children. We asked for a way out of this air, out of these mines. Your people sent more drills. Earth sent LUMINEX, Cole said. You intercepted it. They sent it as part of a contract. Darrow replied. Quotas, compliance clauses, reporting chains. It was not a gift. It was a leash with a polished clasp. And your answer is to turn our people into test animals? Suray asked. No one was dragged to those cots and chains. Darrow said. They came because the alternative was watching their children cough themselves awake every night. Some volunteered so others could see it was possible to change. And what did you tell them about the risks? Cole asked. The truth, Darrow said. That it might fail. That they might die. That they would almost certainly suffer. But if we learned enough, we could stop depending on men like you. He jabbed a finger toward Cole. The algorithms in that crate carry off-world priorities. Darrow continued. They are built to obey their makers. We are rewriting them to obey us. Cole thought of Arya's sequence buried deep in that architecture. He remembered the warning flag on the monitor. You are not rewriting, he said. You are stabbing random instructions into a system you barely grasp. You are corrupting integrity checks. That is why people outside are shaking themselves apart. Darrow's jaw clenched. Doubt flickered. Brief but real. We have seen some failures, he said quietly. There is always a cost when you push past a wall someone else built. The wall here is biology, Cole replied. Not politics. Not contracts. Cells do not care about your ideology. They only understand patterns, doses, and damage. Saray stepped closer, eyes hard. My husband is missing because of you, she said. 3 engineers taken, one of them Joran. You use him so your stolen systems do not blow your people apart faster than the sky already does. Your husband is alive, Darrow said. He is in the lower sectors, calibrating support systems. If he had refused, he would not be alive now. That is not mercy, she said. That is extortion. Cole saw the opening in Darrow's words. You said you are rewriting the algorithms, he said. None of your people have the training for this. These displays show overlays and baselines you could not have built. Someone fed you higher-level models. Darrow hesitated. We received decoded segments from a buyer, he said at last. They send instructions. We send data about what works, or appears to work. You are field testing for a client on your own people, Cole said. We are running trials we could never afford alone. Darrow snapped. In return, we keep copies of any successful protocol. When the agreement ends, we have our own version. Independent. Ours. Who is the buyer? Cole pressed. They use encrypted relays, Darrow said. Their name does not matter. What matters is they pay in equipment and obfuscation. They hide our signals in their noise. It matters, Cole said, because they will not stop at Oranyx. They will not stop at giving you crumbs from your own flesh. When you stop being useful, they will take everything. You speak like someone who has watched that happen, Darrow said. I have, Cole replied, more than once. Silence settled between them, filled by the hum of machines. We are both standing in broken places, Darrow said. You patch cracks until the wall stops leaking. I break the wall and build something new from what survives. And in the meantime? Saray asked. How many bodies do you stack under this new wall? Darrow's shoulders sagged. He looked very tired. An alert chirped on one of the consoles. He turned, eyes narrowing as new data scrolled. The buyer has accelerated the timetable, he said. They are sending retrieval for the main device. They say our work has been informative. Cole stepped onto the platform, scanning the schematics. A small icon blinked near the lowest segment of the ruined map, marking a cargo staging zone. Where is LUMINEX? He asked. In the lower vault, Darrow said slowly. We stabilized it there after the first tests. Then that is where we go, Cole said. Saray caught his arm. You cannot just walk down there and take it. Watch me, he said. The way down to the lower vault was not built for comfort. A narrow staircase clung to the edge of a shaft that had once carried thick power conduits. Now the conduits were gone, leaving empty channels and a long drop into darkness. The handrail, where it existed, was rough-cut pipe. Cole moved carefully, feeling a faint tremble in the structure. The gravity here felt slightly wrong, as if disturbed ore had warped the local field. Each step seemed a little heavy, then light, then heavy again. Saray followed close, testing each tread before trusting it. Above them, voices echoed. Shatter Veil fighters argued, some shouting that the tests were killing their own, others insisting they had come too far to turn back. The words rolled down the shaft like ghosts. They are splitting, Saray said softly. Desperation fractures faster than stone. Cole replied. At the bottom, the stairs opened into a circular corridor lit by a crooked line of hanging lamps. The air was colder and damp, carrying the weight of deep rock. They had gone only a few steps when a figure stepped out from a side alcove. Weapon raised. Stop, the guard said. No one goes to the vault without Daro's order. Cole saw the tremor in his hands. Not fear, long exposure. You are dying, Cole said calmly. You just have not named it yet. We are all dying, the guard answered. Yes, Cole said, but if LUMINEX leaves this world with your buyer, you lose even the chance your leader claims he wants for you. Saray stepped forward, hands open. You know me, she said. Saray Valen, I kept your district from freezing last winter. If that device leaves with outsiders, nothing you have done here matters. They will own your work, your deaths, all of it. The guard hesitated. I have a brother in those cots, he said. Upstairs, he can barely lift his head. Then help us, Saray said. Let us try to stop this before the next crate leaves. Long seconds passed. Finally, the guard stepped aside. I did not see you, he said. If they ask, I was checking another corridor. They moved on. The vault chamber lay at the corridor's end, behind a reinforced door cut straight into the rock. The walls here were newer, plating standardized. Someone with serious resources had helped build this part. Cole palmed the control panel. Nothing happened. Locked from inside, he said. Saray popped the casing, exposing a nest of old and new wiring. Give me a minute, she murmured. You have less than that, Cole said. Their retrieval team is coming. I know, she replied. Her fingers moved quickly, bypassing an external lock and tricking a sensor into thinking an authentication cycle had finished. The door rumbled open. Inside, the vault glowed with cold, even light. LUMINEX sat on a central platform in a sealed container larger than the field module above. White alloy walls, etched markings, cables running into stabilizers and environmental rigs. A small group of technicians surrounded it. Among them stood a man with a familiar tool harness. Joran, Saray breathed. He turned, his eyes widened behind his visor. Saray? He said. For a heartbeat, the room held only that recognition. Then someone shouted, Intruders! Shatter Veil fighters swung weapons toward them. Cole dragged Saray behind a support column as shots sparked off metal. Stay low, he said. You think I planned to stand up and sing? She snapped. Then ducked as another shot hit nearby. Technicians dove for cover. Joran, after confirming Saray was moving, turned back to his panel, fingers flying. What is he doing? Cole called. Keeping the containment field steady while these idiots shoot near critical modules. Saray said. Cole leaned out and fired short bursts, knocking weapons from hands instead of dropping bodies. Fighters cursed and scrambled. I am not here to kill you, Cole shouted. I am here for that device. And the buyer is coming for it too. Someone yelled back. They will bring more guns than you. Then help me make sure they leave with nothing, Cole replied. Saray spotted a secondary control node half shielded by equipment. If we decouple the platform, we might move the container, she said. Right now it is tied into everything. Go, Cole said. I will keep them busy. She sprinted low, moving between cover. Cole rose just enough to draw fire, then dropped and counted their reload rhythm. Between bursts, he saw Joran glance toward Saray, then toward a secondary door on the far side. Two heavily armed figures had appeared there, geared too clean and uniform to belong to Shatter Veil. Sealed helmets, disciplined posture. Those are not his people, Cole said. Saray slammed her hand onto the manual override. The platform is isolated, she shouted. We can move it independently now. Good, Cole said. He broke from cover, sprinting for the platform as focused fire chased him. Shots chewed at the floor. A beam cracked overhead. He reached the container's mag-lev base and found the manual release. His gloved hand rested for a moment on the white alloy, feeling the faint thrum inside, a library that still carried his sister's echo. I have you, he whispered. The base locked. A high tone shrieked. A red indicator flashed. Remote override. Engaged. The floor vibrated. At first he thought it was the stabilizers. The vibration deepened into a steady tremor that shook dust from the ceiling. Saray caught herself on the control node. "What is that?" she shouted. Joran looked up, alarmed. "That is not us," he said. "Something is tying into the vault anchors directly." The overhead rock groaned. Fine cracks spidered across the ceiling. Then a circular section of roof rose on hidden rails. Cold white light speared down. Focused and harsh, dust hung inside the beam like frozen metal snow. Cole squinted up. A ship hovered above the opening. Hull a smooth, angled geometry of dark plating and sensor clusters. A faint logo glowed along one side, a stylized V flanked by extraction claws. Virontech. Lines dropped from its underside, tether beams of directed force that locked onto the container. The mag-lev base responded not to Cole, but to the stronger command flooding its systems. "The buyer," Cole said grimly. "They never planned to walk through your doors. They planned to lift the floor." Darrow burst into the vault with 2 core fighters. His eyes went straight to the light and the ship. "No," he breathed. "They said retrieval would be discreet. Ground team. Coordinated. Welcome to how they treat partners," Cole said. Alarms screamed as the platform anchors released. The container rose a few centimeters. Then more, cradled in the tethers. "Stop them," someone shouted. Shatter Veil fighters fired up at the ship. Shots scattered off armor built to deflect worse than small arms. Hatches opened beneath the craft. Figures dropped, slowing at the last moment with personal rigs, Virontech extraction troopers in full armor. Their mirrored visors reflected only chaos. They landed smoothly. Weapons tracking. Non-compliant activity detected. A synthesized voice broadcast. Assets flagged for recovery. "Stand down. No one here belongs to you," Darrow shouted. "Correction," the voice replied. "Biological assets derived from proprietary algorithm trials fall under Virontech containment clauses." Cole stepped between a trooper and the platform. "You have no jurisdiction here," he said. "This planet is not under your charter. Jurisdiction is defined by enforceable reach." The trooper answered. "Current circumstances demonstrate reach." Another trooper moved toward the technicians. Joran planted himself between them and a cluster of panels. "Do not touch those stabilizers," he said. "You will collapse the chamber." The trooper regarded him, then gestured. "Target identified," the voice said. "Category: high-value technical." They grabbed Joran with practiced ease, clamping restraints on his wrists. Saray lunged, only to be blocked by a Shatter Veil fighter trying to keep her out of the crossfire. "Joran," she cried. He twisted in their grip, straining against the bands. "Saray," he called, "do not follow them into their sky." Another trooper fired a stun round into Darrow's chest. He convulsed, dropped to one knee, then was hauled up. This one issued command-level authorizations. The trooper said, "Pattern matches transaction signatures. Flag as primary sample." Darrow spat blood onto his mask before they sealed it. "We are not your specimens," he said thickly. "You participated in unauthorized field trials." The voice replied, "All resulting variables fall under audit." Cole raised his weapon, aiming at the joint between helmet and chestplate. Before he could fire, a pulse rolled down from the ship, a concussive wave tuned to knock bodies flat. He hit the floor hard. Ears ringing, dust rained down. Saray fell beside him, arms over her helmet. Through the haze, he saw the tether beams brighten. The container lifted higher toward the opening. Troopers rose with it, rigs hauling them back up along invisible lines. Joran's eyes met Saray's one last time, fear, anger, and stubborn steadiness. "I will find you," she shouted. Her voice broke under the roar of engines. Darrow, pinned between 2 troopers, locked eyes with Cole. "You warned me," he said hoarsely. "You were right. They do not share freedom." Then he too vanished into the light. Panels slid back into place above, sealing the ceiling with brutal neatness. The tremor faded. The vault dropped into heavy silence. Cole pushed himself upright. Around him, Shatter Veil fighters lay stunned or slowly rising. Some stared up, shaken less by the pulse than by the speed of the betrayal. Saray stayed on her knees, one hand on the floor. the other clutching Joran's tool pouch to her chest. "They took him," she whispered. "They took LUMINEX. They took Darrow. They took everything." "No," Cole said. His voice was quiet but steady. "They took the first piece. Not the last." She looked up, eyes rimmed red inside her hood. "How do you fight something like that?" she asked. "They drop from the sky, take what they want, and leave." "By understanding them," Cole said, "by learning how they think, how they move, and what they cannot afford to lose. The same way we fight every enemy who thinks distance makes them safe." He looked around the vault at the wiring. Consoles, gene overlays, logs still open on screens. "They did not erase their tracks," he said. "They left signatures, transactions, test protocols. Darrow was foolish enough to serve them, but careful enough to keep records. And now he is their prisoner," Surrey said. "Which means he is now their liability," Cole replied. "Liabilities have a way of breaking things from the inside if they get the chance." He offered her his hand. "We are not done," he said. "Oranyx is not done. Your husband is not done. And my sister's code is not going to spend the rest of its existence locked in a Virontech lab." She stared at his hand, then took it and pulled herself upright. Her legs shook, but she stayed standing. Above them, unseen, the Virontech extraction craft climbed away from Oranyx, carrying LUMINEX, Joran, and Darrow Chiron into cold corporate custody. Below, in the dim light of Zir Nath's wounded heart, two people looked at the damage and the data left behind and understood the same truth. The first enemy was not the last. But he had just shown them exactly where to aim next. The day after the vault fell silent, Thanriel looked unchanged. Dust still rolled along the horizon, and the mining pits glowed with their usual tired lights. Workers moved with steady steps, unaware that something beneath their world had shifted. Cole Aristran and Saray Valen stood inside a cramped analysis room carved into an old tower. Salvaged screens covered the wall, humming with uneven power. Logs from Zir Nath scrolled across the main display. "Here," Saray said. "Stop it." Cole froze the feed. A packet header glowed in the middle of the screen. Its route curved through multiple relays, masking its endpoint, but the pattern was familiar. "That line belongs to a Virontech trunk," he said. Saray nodded. "Registered as Vir Metal Logistics. Supposedly harmless, but the secondary lanes behind it say otherwise." She pulled up the orbital map. Traffic lines traced the local routes. One narrow corridor pulsed brighter, feeding into an unlabeled arc in the upper atmosphere. "This packet left 2 hours before the extraction craft arrived," she said. "It was not a random transfer." Cole leaned closer. "They have been hiding operations for years." 8, Saray said quietly. "The first contracts were surveys. Then cranes. Then support platforms. All wrapped in friendly language." She tapped a still image. Extraction troopers hauling Darrow and Joran toward the sky. The white beam cut through dust and steel. "They do not see a world," she whispered. "They see a resource sheet." Cole opened the diplomatic reply from Earth. The message was brief, careful, and cold. "Deliberation in progress. Risk of escalation. Avoid direct conflict. Gather more evidence." He read aloud. At the bottom, a human note added a final warning. "Do not start a war we cannot finish." Saray stared at the screen. "They want restraint while my people breathe poison. They fear a system-wide conflict," Cole said, "but they do not stand here. Then we act without them." Cole studied the routing traces again. Delays appeared where nothing should exist. Small distortions bent the projected gravity lines. "There," he said, "mass enough to be real. But hidden." Saray opened a buried registry entry. A forgotten listing appeared. Hub Gamma-7, Auxiliary Support Node, Contractor, Virontech Industries. To everyone else, a supply station, she said, but large enough for labs, storage blocks, and anything they want to bury. Cole marked the coordinates. That is where they took LUMINEX. And where they took Joran. "We cannot storm it," Saray said. "Earth will not help. Virontech will hide behind contracts. Then we need to reach it without looking like soldiers." She switched the display to a mining vessel schematic, the tall Vector 9. Long, narrow, stubborn enough to survive decades of heavy work. It makes regular runs to orbit. She said, no one questions it. It can get close without raising alarms. Cole nodded slowly. If we give it sharper teeth. And cover those teeth with rust. Saray said, we approach as workers, not threats. Cole looked at her. This only works if we trust each other. She met his gaze without hesitation. We trust. Completely. The plan formed between them, quiet, dangerous, and the only path left. It covers its teeth well. Cole said. We only need to get close. Saray replied. Once we dock, their lower staff will be overwhelmed. These stations always are. Cole traced the path on the screen, Thanriel to orbit. Around the shadow curve, then into the quiet pocket. And once inside? Her voice stayed steady. 2 goals. Retrieve LUMINEX. Find Joran and Darrow. If we cannot take everything, Cole said, we destroy what we cannot carry. Saray didn't disagree. She turned back to the map, marking critical choke points along the station's inner spine. Gamma 7 is built like an ore hub, she said. Straight channels, heavy lifts, wide corridors, easier for us to move fast, easier for them to chase us. Cole's jaw tightened. Speed and misdirection. And trust, she said softly. He met her eyes. She did not look away. We do this together, she said. The knock at the door came long after the sky outside faded to amber. Cole and Saray exchanged a silent glance. No one with harmless business visited at this hour. Cole opened the door with his sidearm low. 3 figures waited in the corridor, respirators hanging loose around tired faces. The man in front removed his mask. Cole Aristran? He asked. I am, Cole said. The man turned to Saray. Valen, I did not expect to say your name again. Saray frowned. Rhett Coven, last time I saw you. You were draining power from the East Grid and swearing no one would command you again. Rhett gave a thin, weary smile. The world has a way of proving us wrong. Cole stepped aside. Come in. Rhett and his companions entered, closing the door behind them. Their gear was patched and worn, shaped by months of underground living. We came from what remains of Shatter Vale, Rhett said, not the loud part still pretending they fight for freedom. The part that watched that ship drag our leader into the sky. Saray's voice sharpened. You helped them take him. You guarded the routes. You pushed people into those cots. Rhett met her eyes without flinching. Yes, I believed I was giving them a chance. Some who volunteered were my family. His voice cracked, then steadied. I am not here for forgiveness. I am here because I would rather burn whatever time I have left hurting the ones who lied to us than sit underground pretending we matter. Cole studied him. No bravado, no shifting blame, just exhaustion and truth. What do you bring? Cole asked. Access codes, old ones. They might still open doors Virontech forgot to update. Also supplies, fighters, and people who understand close quarters in bad air. Saray folded her arms. If we trust you, we risk more lives. Rhett nodded. I know, and I know we put your husband in their hands. That is why we came. Silence pressed between them. Saray's voice softened slightly. Do you still believe what Darrow said? That any cost is acceptable? Rhett shook his head. There is a cost we choose. And a cost we force onto people who never asked. I will not choose the second again. Cole stepped forward. I do not need you to trust me, he said. I wore uniforms that brought too many coffins home. But I need you to believe this. Oranyx deserves the right to decide its future. Rhett drew a breath. That, I can stand behind. Cole nodded. Then we have an agreement. Your people help us board a ship and reach their station. Once we are there, you follow our lead. No reckless moves. Rhett managed a small smile. We have had enough of those. He turned to Saray. Tell us what to learn. Tell us where to stand. Saray hesitated only a moment. Then inclined her head. Then help us prepare the tall Vector 9. Something eased in the room, fragile. But real. They had a plan. Now they had allies. Outside, the mining pits pulsed with dim light. Unaware that Oranyx's fractured factions were taking their first shared step toward the sky. The tall Vector 9 sat in Dock 3 like an aging beast waiting for one last run. Its hull carried years of dust scars, patched plates, and the faint burn marks of old overloads. Saray walked beneath the ship's spine. running her hand along a row of reinforced struts. "I did my apprenticeship on this vessel," she said. "We always joked it would outlive us. Now I am asking it to survive the impossible." Rhett carried a crate beside her. "If it gets us into their orbit and breaks something they cannot hide, I think it will forgive you." Across the dock, Cole monitored teams moving in and out of the ship. Engineers welded new mounts inside existing frames. Former Shatter Veil fighters rewired panels to accept hidden commands. Miners installed covert systems in narrow cargo cavities. A technician approached. Forward drills recalibrated. They can still cut rock, but now they can throw brief interference bursts. "Good," Saray said. "Seconds are all we need." Cole trained Rhett and 2 others at a suspended scrap range. Recoil in low gravity pulled bodies sideways if they moved wrong. Rhett fired short bursts. Boots anchored to the floor grid. "Feels like fighting underwater," Rhett said. "You adapt," Cole replied, "or you respect the rules enough to stay alive." Later, when dock lights dimmed for power conservation, Cole sat alone on a crate at the bay's edge. The ship towered above him, lit only by thin blue status lights. He turned Arya's old data chip between his fingers. Saray approached quietly and sat beside him. "You only take that out when something dangerous is coming." He looked at the worn chip. "I told you LUMINEX carries a fragment of my past. I never told you the shape of it." Saray folded her hands, waiting. "Arya was my sister," he said. "She helped design the early stabilizer lattice. She believed it could help future colonies survive harsh worlds. When experiments stalled, she offered her own genome as a pattern. The safeguards were weaker than the paperwork claimed." He paused, breath tight. "The trial using her pattern failed. I was off-world when it happened. By the time I reached the lab, she was gone. What remained became the foundation of the final LUMINEX core." Saray absorbed this in silence. "And they put that lattice into the device they sent here." He nodded. "They turned her work into a product. On a world with proper oversight. Maybe it saves lives. But here, in hands that see it as leverage." He closed his fingers around the chip. "I cannot let this be the last way she touches the universe." Saray placed her hand over his. "Then we take it back. Or we make sure no one can twist it again." Cole met her eyes. There was resolve there, steady and human. "We may not return," he said. "I grew up breathing poison," she replied. "This gives me a choice about how to use what remains." He nodded once. "Then we go together." "Together," she said. When the tall Vector 9 finally lifted, the night over Thanriel glowed with pit lights and drifting dust. Workers paused to watch the engines brighten the sky. Inside the cockpit, Saray guided the ship upward. Rhett monitored power flow. Cole braced behind them, clipped into the overhead rail. "Main engines stable," Rhett called out. "Stress levels acceptable." "Do not insult her yet," Saray said, easing the throttle. The ship cut through the first toxic haze, shaking under turbulent air. For a moment the clouds parted, revealing sharp stars above the roiling sky. "That is where they took him," Saray whispered. "We are going there," Cole said. The gray thinned, then fell away. Oranyx curved below them, blue bruises, gray plains, and the faint glitter of machines. Orbital beacons blinked ahead. "Transmit War Hauler registration," Cole said. Rhett sent the code. A traffic node responded without hesitation. "They did not question us," Rhett said. "Good," Cole replied. "Let them sleep." Saray adjusted their course, lining them up with the shadow arc. "Next step is slipping under Gamma 7 sensors," she said. "After that, we dock." Cole watched the stars and the faint distortion where the hidden station waited. "After that," he said, "we take back what they stole." The ship pushed into the dark, leaving Oranyx's poisoned sky behind. Virontech Orbital Hub Gamma 7 appeared first as a shadow where no shadow should exist. Against the starfield, its hull blended with the dark. Only when the tall Vector 9 sensors pushed the contrast did the structure resolve into a ringed platform with docking arms and antenna clusters. Its surfaces angled to scatter both debris and scans. "Traffic mask confirms," Rhett said. "On the registry, this is just a cargo stabilizer." "On the registry," Cole said. "In reality, it is where they hide what they never want audited." Gamma 7 turned slowly. One faced toward the official lanes. Another toward the thin pocket of shadow where unauthorized ships were not supposed to drift. The tall Vector 9 eased in with engines at low burn, playing the part of a tired ore hauler that had spent too many years climbing through dust. Signal handshake, Surrey said from the forward console. They want our manifest, contract number, and reason for leaving the lane. We stick to the story. Cole said. Guidance drift, nervous about blocking traffic, requesting a berth for inspection. Surrey typed the reply and added a calculated tremor to their power output. On the station's board, their ship looked exactly how it felt in reality, old, stubborn, held together by skilled hands and worn luck. Seconds stretched, measured by the steady tick of the life support readouts. Gamma 7 acknowledges, Surrey said. We are assigned Dock 6. Emergency diagnostics. No escort. Why waste escort ships? Cole murmured. When their station guns can erase us if they change their minds. Icons appeared at the edge of the scan. Automated turrets lined the station's rim, with overlapping arcs of fire. Small armed drones drifted between them, each one a quiet decision waiting for a wrong move. Those are not for pirates, Rhett said. No, Cole replied. Those are for keeping test subjects in and angry councils out. He locked his helmet into place. Surrey and Rhett followed, suit seals hissing. Their weapons were hidden under patched gear and tool harnesses. Once we dock, the AI will watch every motion, Cole said. We move like people who are paid too little to care. No straight backs, no parade ground strides. Rhett let his shoulders sink. How about now? Perfect, Cole said. You look like you owed 3 months of rent. The docking clamps caught them with a dull impact that shivered through the hull. An umbilical locked onto the airlock with a mechanical sigh. Dock 6 pressure equalized, Surrey said. We have temporary maintenance clearance. How long until the first tech arrives? Cole asked. Under 3 minutes, she said. Brand consistency. The inner hatch opened. A Virontech technician stood waiting, flanked by 2 small drones. His expression held the specific annoyance of someone whose schedule had been nudged but not shattered. You were off your assigned vector, he said. My board does not like clutter. Surrey stepped forward, shoulders rounded. Guidance drift, she said. Our alignment array keeps spiking. Your control node told us to dock before we jammed the lane. The tech checked his pad. Manifest shows ore from Thanriel. Contract matches. Guidance logs? Rhett handed over a data stick. She has been old since before I signed on, he said. Today she decided to deepen the wrinkles. The tech scanned the file. Surrey had seeded it with real historical errors wrapped in fresh, harmless glitches. Enough truth to lull a board review. Fine, the man said. You have rest cycle access while we run diagnostics. Do not leave the crew sectors. This is not a sightseeing platform. We will stay where we are told, Surrey said. He turned away. The drones followed, scanning the hull. Cole waited until the airlock closed behind him, then tapped the side of his helmet. Internal channel only, he said. From now on, anything important stays in this line. Dock 6 a receiving bay was pure function. Grating underfoot, pipes overhead, tool racks and status panels on the walls. Workers moved with the weary confidence of people who knew every leak and shortcut. Keep helmets on, Cole said quietly. On worlds with bad air, no one questions extra filters. As they walked, Surrey brushed her gloved fingers along auxiliary panels, snapping tiny data taps into hidden ports. The devices latched onto network lines and began chewing through routing tables. These will tell me how the station thinks, she murmured. Where the core sits, where they label anything as restricted asset. A calm synthetic voice hummed from a bulkhead speaker ahead. Reminder, it said, all biological samples must be transferred to containment within 2 minutes of arrival. Biological samples, Rhett muttered. That is how they say people, without admitting it. They avoid the word, Cole said, because saying it would demand different choices. Lines of data flickered across Surrey's wrist display. I have their layout, she said. Primary core in the hub. LUMINEX vault 3 levels below it. Detention ring near waste processing. Of course they put prisoners next to the trash, Rhett said. They turned into a corridor marked for authorized personnel. Two small turret mounts rotated toward them. Warning lights climbed from green to yellow. Saray brushed a switch sewn into her sleeve. The turrets flickered, then settled back to idle. I fed them a temporary maintenance override, she said. For a few minutes. We are inspectors. Then we do not waste those minutes, Cole replied. The corridor opened into Gamma 7's heart. A tall core of transparent alloy rose through the chamber, shot through with streams of light. Around it, platforms hung like petals, carrying consoles and workstations. On the far side, a man stood with his hands behind his back, watching a slowly turning construct of LUMINEX data. He wore a dark coat with a small Virontech mark at the collar. Director on deck, a technician whispered. Elthrax Varon did not turn immediately. He waited until Cole, Saray, and Rhett stepped fully into the light. Then he pivoted with unhurried precision. His face was smooth, his hair silver at the temples by choice. His eyes had the glassy calm of someone who believed in long timelines. You are not my usual maintenance crew, he said. No, Cole answered. Your usual maintenance crew does not carry these. He held up a small device. The LUMINEX symbol glowed on its surface, threaded with strategic core patterns. Recognition passed through Varon's gaze. Cole Aristran, he said, retired, then quietly reactivated. I wondered when someone would decide your conscience was useful again. His attention shifted to Saray. And Saray Valen, he added. The engineer who sees every fracture line in Oranyx's grid and still believes it can be repaired. You know our names, Saray said. Do you also know how many cots your support filled in our clinics? Varon sighed softly. Every meaningful change carries a painful phase, he said. That is as true for societies as it is for bodies. We call it burying neighbors, she replied. Varon gestured to the LUMINEX construct. With this, your grandchildren could breathe your air without filters, he said. Their cells could treat your toxins as nutrients. That is the scale of what you are interrupting. With whose hand on the switch? Cole asked. With hands that understand the stakes, Varon said. Not short-term councils or frightened insurgents. He said, insurgents, with a small glance at Rhett. Cole felt heat rise under his collar. You are using my sister's work in that structure, he said. She gave her pattern to a project that promised care. You turned it into a cage. Varon watched him closely. Arya Aristran's lattice increased survival rates by a measurable fraction, he said. Preserving it is the only reason her death was not meaningless. She decided what risks to take with her own body. Cole said. You decided for everyone in these cells. He did not raise his weapon yet. There were too many hostages tied to this place. Too many systems wired to one wrong move. Varon folded his hands behind his back again. You came to drag LUMINEX back to a single world, he said, to let fear freeze it there. To throw away a chance to guide whole branches of your species. I came, Cole said, to make sure no one gets to run experiments on entire planets without those planets having a say. Behind him, the station lights shifted. A tone sounded somewhere deep in the hub. Gamma 7's eye had finally decided that something was wrong. Alarms began to rise. The detention ring of Gamma 7 was built to simplify numbers, not lives. Cells curved along the outer wall like compartments in a cargo drum. Transparent barriers could turn opaque at command. Each cell held a bunk, a bench, and the metal taste of controlled air. Rhett moved along the corridor with two fighters at his back, his boots locked to the deck, weapon raised. Saray walked in the center, eyes on her wrist console. Third block on the left, she said, biosignature close to Joran's baseline. Rhett peered through the barrier. Joran sat on the bunk, arms around his knees. He looked thinner, bruised, but his eyes were sharp. They widened when he saw Saray. She pressed her hand to the barrier. Joran, she said. He stood too fast and caught himself on the wall. They told me the vault collapsed on you, he said. I argued with them in my head every night. Argue with me later, she said. Right now, help me break their locks. Rhett studied the control node. Everything here runs through the core, he said. If we tear it wrong, we trigger a full block shutdown. The core is busy, Saray replied. Cole is keeping it busy. Her fingers danced over the interface. They love redundancy, she muttered. Every critical lock has a fallback in case the AI fails. We will tell the fallback that we are the emergency." The barrier flickered, then hissed down. Joran crossed the line in 2 steps and pulled her into a tight, brief embrace. "You came a long way," he said. "For you?" she replied. "Of course." Rhett tossed him a compact sidearm. "Can you still shoot straight?" he asked. "I have spent weeks staring at their circuits," Joran said. "I know which panels complain first when you kick them." "Good enough," Rhett said. "We have one more person to find and very little time." They moved to the next block. Darrow lay inside his cell, straps loose, eyes fogged by sedatives. When they cut the dose from the system, his gaze sharpened slowly, like someone surfacing from deep water. "You picked a loud time to visit," he said hoarsely. "Seemed poetic," Rhett answered. They hauled Darrow upright and gave him a support harness. His legs trembled but held. Above them, the hub shook with the rhythm of weapons fire. Cole's voice came over the channel, rough with effort. "Status? Joran and Darrow are with us," Saray said. "We are heading for a maintenance relay tied into your core." "Good," Cole replied. "I am keeping their security very busy. Make the most of it." In the hub, guards in exoskeletal frames pushed onto the platforms. Drones slid from recessed ports, weapons locking onto Cole's heat signature. He moved the way he had been taught in tri-vector training and then altered everything the training assumed. In microgravity, he used recoil as propulsion, bouncing off struts, turning corners in 3 axes. His shots were short, precise. Drone sensors burst, weapon arms went limp, exoskeleton joints sparked and froze. "Impressive," Varan called over the chaos. "You move as if gravity is an outdated habit." "You built a box in the sky," Cole said. "I spent years fighting in boxes like this." He landed against a support beam, boots locking briefly. 2 guards lunged from opposite sides. Cole released his grip and dropped under them, letting their momentum carry them into each other. 2 quick bursts sent their weapons spinning. "Path is almost open," Saray said in his ear. "I am at the relay. One last barrier, then I can reach your LUMINEX core from here." Varan watched the streaming data. "You intend to release my work," he said, "to spill it into every half-broken lab and overworked clinic on this world." "I intend to take it out of your vault," Cole said. "You will create competing forks and unstable copies," Varan replied. "People will die testing versions they barely understand." "People are already dying in your controlled trials," Cole said. "The difference is now they will get to argue about the cost." "Chaos," Varan said. "Choice," Cole answered. "Path is open," Saray said. "I am injecting a decode routine. When you trigger it, every sealed segment opens and copies itself down every channel linked to Oranyx's medical nets. They will not receive a single perfect device. They will receive pieces and instructions." Varan stared at Cole. "You would rather trust a crowded world full of disagreements than one prepared hand," he said. "I have seen what a single prepared hand can do when it never has to live with the fallout," Cole said. He slammed the authorization key into a core access port. Light flared along the transparent column. For a moment, the chamber glowed white, then thin threads of brightness shot down conduits and into the station's spine. Far below, terminals in dusty clinics flickered as new files appeared. In small labs, locked icons lost their warning symbols. Long-forgotten workstations powered up as queued updates finally woke them. LUMINEX, once trapped behind corporate firewalls, poured into the noisy, mismatched systems of a world that refused to stay a test subject. Varan's composure cracked. "You have no idea what you have unleashed," he said. "Neither do you," Cole replied. "That is the point. You do not get to know first." Security teams began to fall back, pulled by shouted orders and shifting priorities. Gamma 7's AI, confronted with simultaneous emergencies, slipped into a defensive mode that favored life support over proprietary tasks. On one side of the hub display, a small icon blinked near the station's inner rail. "Of course," Cole said quietly, "you built yourself a back door." A concealed life pod detached from the hub and slid along a hidden track toward a launch tube. Varan watched the schematic and then looked back at Cole. "You have wounded an arm," he said. The body still sprawls across half a dozen systems. Virontech will adapt. You just taught Oranyx how to adapt without your permission, Cole said. Varon's smile was thin and furious. This conversation will continue elsewhere, he said, with better ventilation. He turned and left with 3 guards, heading toward the lifepod corridor. Rhett's voice cut in. I have a clean shot on the pod track, he said. No, Cole replied. We do not know what fail-safes he tied to his pulse. And we have enough broken people here. Let him run. Then, Rhett said, we will have plenty left to fix. They regrouped at Dock 6. Joran moved under his own power, though slowly. Darrow leaned on his harness, pale but awake. Behind them, Gamma 7's internal alarms dropped from a scream to a grinding mutter. The AI just shut down half their experimental wings, Saray said, watching her display. Too many conflicting orders. It is choosing not to choose. Good, Cole said. Let it think about that for a while. The tall Vector 9 undocked with a low, vibrating pull. The station shrank in the rear display, its rings scarred by damage and studded with emergency beacons. Below, Oranyx curved into view, blues dulled by haze, grays carved by pits, thin strands of machinery catching the light. For the first time since Cole had arrived, the planet did not look like a patient on a table. It looked like someone standing up despite the weight on their chest. In the days that followed, the official story wrapped itself around what had happened and tried to hold. Public bulletins called Gamma 7's crisis an industrial incident, followed by unauthorized data release. Virontech spokespeople denied, threatened, blamed corrupt staff, and then spoke more quietly when logs and footage leaked from too many directions at once. On Oranyx, clinics found themselves holding sequences they had never asked for. At first, many doctors refused to touch anything with a Virontech tag. Then a few began to pick through the files, stripping out obvious traps, testing limited changes on organoids and volunteer samples under new, local rules. Progress was uneven and sometimes frightening, but it belonged to them. Weeks later, a ship from Earth settled into orbit. It was smaller than a cruiser, bigger than a courier, heavy with diplomats, legal staff, and medical liaisons. Its directive was carefully worded. Support, responsible integration of LUMINEX-derived protocols under local governance. In Thanriel, the central hall had been cleaned and sealed. Filters ran at full strength. Banners from Oranyx and Earth hung side by side, trying not to clash. Cole stood near the back, wearing a plain dark jacket. When they called his name, the room turned. A representative from Earth's strategic core stepped forward with a small case in her hands. Cole Aristran, she said, in recognition of your actions in preventing the monopolization of critical medical tools and in defending the rights of Oranyx's people to shape their own biological future, Earth offers this commendation and an invitation to return to active duty as an advisor. She opened the case. A medal sat inside, polished until the metal caught every light. Behind it, a data card held access rights and travel orders. Cole studied the medal, then looked past it. Saray stood in the crowd. Joran beside her. Rhett lingered near a pillar, collar too tight in a borrowed jacket. Darrow leaned on a cane, scars visible, eyes clear. Cole closed the case. I appreciate the offer, he said. A ripple moved through the hall. But, the representative said, but I have spent enough years taking orders that turned other people's homes into lines on someone else's briefings. Cole said, I am not stepping back into a post that might treat Oranyx the same way. You could shape policy from inside, she said, change the way future operations look. I am changing one right now, he said, here, with them, on a world that has to live with the consequences. He held the case out to her. I do not need a familiar emblem, he said. I need work that answers to the people who breathe this air. Silence followed, heavier than the dust outside. Saray stepped forward slightly. If Earth wants to help, she said, share your own oversight logs. Show us where you failed and where you corrected. Not to control us, to keep us from repeating the same blind spots. The representative hesitated, then nodded. We can open discussions, she said. Good, Saray replied. This time, we sign with both sides reading every line. A month later, The pits outside Thanriel looked the same from far away. Up close, details had shifted. New clinics sat near the largest mines, built from repurposed containers and spare parts once locked behind corporate seals. Inside, local medics and visiting specialists argued over shared screens. Some miners' children already woke with fewer coughing fits, their bodies responding to carefully tested adjustments, not secret injections in ruined vaults. On a ridge above an older pit, a small research outpost rose from the rock. It flew a joint banner and answered to a mixed council that included people whose boots still came home gray each shift. Cole stood on that ridge one early morning, mask filters humming softly. The sky carried the usual metallic tang, but the light on the horizon seemed a shade less harsh. New filters scattered the sun differently now. Footsteps approached. "You found a quiet corner," Saray said. "That is rare lately." "Noise has its job," he said. "It means people feel safe enough to complain." She smiled under her mask. Below them, workers installed sensor arrays on the outpost roof. Someone looked up and waved. Saray returned the gesture. "First full trial of the new protocol goes next week," she said. "Small group, tight monitoring, no shortcuts. This time, if we change anyone's blood, it is because we all agreed on the risk." "Good," Cole said. A light wind pushed dust across the ridge. It carried the usual grit and something else, harder to name. "You could still take their offer," Saray said. "Spend your days on clean decks again. Let someone else argue about ventilator quotas." "I remember how those decks echo," he said. "Too much room for ghosts." "And here?" she asked. "What does it echo with?" He looked down at the clinics. The outpost, the faint line of Thanriel in the distance. "Work," he said. "Mistakes we will own instead of inherit. A chance to fix things before they spill into vacuum." He glanced at her. "And you?" Her eyes softened. "You know staying means breathing this air for the rest of your life," she said. "I know," he answered. "I also know this air will change. Because you will not stop pushing it." She reached into her pocket and took out a small object. A data chip in a simple protective shell. "What is that?" he asked. "The cleaned lattice," she said. "The parts of LUMINEX built from your sister's work. Stripped of locks. Explained in words anyone can read. We are building new protocols around it. But this copy stays offline. Not as leverage, as a reminder." She placed it in his palm. "So you do not have to carry the old one alone," she said. He looked at the chip, then at her, then closed his fingers around it. "Thank you," he said. Behind them, the outpost lights dimmed as the sun climbed. In orbit, Gamma 7 still floated, now wrapped in monitors and oversight committees. Somewhere beyond those watchers, Elthrax Varan was already thinking of his next angle. If he came back, he would find a different Oranyx than the one he had counted on. Cole breathed in through the filters and felt the usual sting. It no longer felt like a punishment. It felt like a price he had decided to pay. "For a long time," he said quietly, "I felt like a piece of equipment the Corps had forgotten to turn off." "And now?" Saray asked. "Now I feel like a man who finally picked his post," he said, "and the people he is willing to stand beside." She bumped her shoulder against his. "Then we had better get moving," she said. "The council wants another argument about resource allocation." "Good," he said. "If they are arguing, they plan to stick around." They walked down the ridge together toward the noise, the dust, and the work that waited. The light followed them, catching on scaffolds and filters and the faces of people who no longer looked up hoping for a miracle from orbit. On Oranyx, the air was still harsh. The ground was still scarred. The future was still uncertain. But for the first time, the choice of what to do with that future belonged to the people breathing that air. And Cole Aristran had chosen to help them hold it.